What's good, y'all? It's your boy Marcel Black checking in. This is the Everything I Love podcast. I decided to bring it back around to let y'all know exactly what's going on with the new album. It's a little different from what I did, Search of the Black Messiah, Deluxe Edition, Deconstructed, or what have you, as opposed to me just running my mouth and interviewing other people. I've got some of my good friends and some supporters of mine to interview me. You know what I'm saying? Um, Everything I Love drops this September, and we'll talk more about that later, or what have you. It's my latest project, executive produced by my good partner, my kinfolk from Chi-Town. Now he's Oklahoma City, Jay Philly. And yeah, man, just some dope hip hop that I just want to share with the people. You know what I'm saying? It's literally a passion project. You know what I'm saying? Something that's really, really personal to me. So today, like I said, instead of me running my mouth talking about my music, I have different people asking me questions, interviewing me, or what have you. I have not seen this question, so I don't know what he's about to ask me. You know what I mean? But this is a good friend and a good brother who actually, came in the clutch for me. So I'm glad to have him here. This is Mr. Born in ATL, representing Northwest Florida, up in Pensacola, Panama City area. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Jamaal Steele. I'll let him introduce himself and he can take it over from there.
Yo. What's good, everybody? It's Jamaal Steele, Mr. Get Acquainted, Mr. BVM, Black Voters Matter for the state of Florida. Just an MC, producer, writer, dope guy all around. And, I appreciate Marcel calling me in the clutch, to come through and do these interviews, man, because I really feel like, especially from the song that I was given, that we need to hear exactly, where you was coming from, what your perspective was for this album. So I'm excited, man, and I'm thrilled to be here. So
Yes,
yeah,
indeed. So, yeah, man. Look, that's why we're here to run it, but we always have great conversations. So, just to give everybody context, the first song on the album is called "Death of a Superhero," produced by Jay Philly. This is Mr. Jamaal Steele. Jamaal Steele, the floor is yours.
yeah. So let's just jump right into it. The let's literally jump right into the very first line in the song. It said, "Cancer took a panther, the chopper took a mamba. Still not sure exactly what took my father." So why was it significant for you to include Chadwick and Kobe's deaths in remembering your father's passing?
Death of a superhero. You know what I'm saying? These are people who, 2020 was a heavy year. You know what I'm saying? Like we still was shaking back from everybody who passed in 2019, Nipsey, and like all the other people. You know what I'm saying? And then like man, like beginning early in the year, Kobe Bryant dies. Kobe real significant. I know for me as a black man and a black father, because you know, I was old enough to see Jordan end, but we was really young when Jordan started. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like for me and our generation, Kobe is like he was one of us. Like right, like we saw him begin. You know what I'm saying? And we saw him end, and we saw everything that he did, and we saw how much he loved his children. We saw how much he loved the sport and how much he meant. You know what I'm saying, to us. To us being of the hip hop generation. And so like I remember like having issues with people. And when Kobe died, we squashed it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Kobe died, we squashed it because it's like, look, we got kids, bro. Like we beefing over nothing. You know what I'm saying? Or not beefing, but like we have our disagreement is of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Chadwick Boseman passed away. You know what I'm saying? Um, like that was our superhero. That was our equivalent to our Superman or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
I remember how much the way you was able to organize young people around getting them to go see Black Panther, and like how you use that as a conduit to like instill that black pride and that black love. You know what I'm saying? So like that hit
Right.
us different. Like that's another person. I remember the first time I saw Chadwick Boseman was on he played Nate Ray on Lincoln Heights, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, it felt like that was a superstar who I saw, you know what I'm saying, literally just as a day player or as like a supporting role come to the biggest black superhero in the world ever. You know what I'm saying? And he was a incredible talent, you know what I'm saying? And so like, I know those things affected children. My son was affected by it, and my daughter was affected by it, or what have you. And then my personal superhero was my father, right? And so with me saying that, like, okay, we know cancer, it took a panther, it took Chadwick Boseman, you know what I'm saying? A chopper, a helicopter, you know what I'm saying? Took brother Kobe and Gigi. To this day, Jamal, I don't know. I'm not really sure why what happened to my pops. Like I saw him 9 days before he passed away. Literally that weekend, he was singing, he was dancing. You know what I'm saying? Because my grandmother had a 100-year birthday celebration. So
Mhm.
my father's gospel musician. So he was
Right.
singing and he was playing his guitar and like my father's a laid back person, but he caught the Holy Ghost, caught him a little step and everything. Something that wasn't necessarily like what he does. We Baptists, we don't really, we missionary Baptists, so we're not with the Pentecostal stepping, you know what I'm saying? But like
Hmm.
he did it, you know what I'm saying? And so I saw him on the last time I saw him was March 9th. But he was a healthy man, didn't smoke, didn't drink, not diabetic, no hypertension. It wasn't COVID. You know what I'm saying? And he passed away 9 days later. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, just saying how like, okay, these people who I didn't know, I understand why they passed. And to this day, I'm still not really sure what caused my father to go into cardiac arrest. You know what I'm saying? When I just saw him and everything was good and just spoke to him and he had just cashed out my son some money for his birthday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So um yeah, I mean, this is just like so. I mean, and we're going to talk, and as the podcast progresses, we're going to talk a lot about this or whatever. But pretty much, um, so the album is it's like a period piece. You know what I'm saying? So the album, so this represents what 2020 was for me, grieving during a pandemic, right? So
Mm.
like my pops passed away March 18th, and it's like everything shut down like a couple weeks later.
Right.
And so, mind you, I lost my career, you know what I'm saying, as an educator and as a touring artist in my pops. I'm trying to reconcile this whole situation. So, like, um, yeah, it just starts off real heavy, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I wanted
Mm.
to do. Like, I mean, that's just what the beat said to me, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
And I mean, for you to start the album with this song is for you to start the album with this song is powerful, and in understanding why you started with this song, with it being a period piece. um I think it makes it more impactful because knowing that your pops passed away on the 18th of March. So on the 16th of March, um 16th of March is actually the day I caught COVID.
Mm.
And um like I was in the bed with like 100, 304 temp, not really understanding, but like we was just getting like the first news reports, so to speak, around COVID being in the States and whatnot. And so I was like, oh no, man, I felt like I might got that stuff. And then, like it started escalating and transpiring from there. And so not knowing exactly what took your dad, um, how has that still impacted you now, still now to this day?
It's
Has it?
frightening. It's frightening. It's frightening, man. It's like it wasn't COVID because we definitely nobody was when he passed away. Nobody was really masked up at the time. So we had the funeral. People was it was a limited capacity funeral, but nobody caught it. So it wasn't that. My mama, myself, my children. So it wasn't COVID. I mean, before he passed away, um, they took a COVID test and it wasn't COVID, right? And so I don't know,
Mhm.
bro. It's fearful. I mean, it's days where it's like I went to the doctor to see what was going on with me because I kind of got off my health journey, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like was it cancer? Is it something hereditary? You know what I'm saying? Just a
Right.
thought that you just might not wake up. You know what I'm saying? Or something that this double cheeseburger might be the one that push you over the edge or whatever. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And it's frightening because I'm still in deep grief and like going through it, even though it's almost been a year and a half later. And so, and I'm grown. I'll be you know what I'm saying, 38 in less than 2 weeks.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so it makes me very fearful because I don't know what it would do to my children who are, you know what I'm saying, elementary age. 9 to 10. My daughter's about to be 11 in a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? So um, frightening, frightening. You know what I'm saying? It just puts everything in perspective, and you know what I'm saying, of what I need to be doing as a man, as a father, husband, and as a son. You know what I'm saying? Like one day it was just all good, then it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like not knowing and not being able to trace it, and um, being mad at God, being, you know what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
like really dealing with,
Absolutely.
yeah, being mad at God and just having no answers to why,
Yeah.
and that the same thing can happen to me. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. You know.
Um,
Yes, indeed, we will be heavy on this album, and we will be heavy in these interviews.
yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's a lot
Absolutely,
of
bro.
pain. It's a lot of pain, but I had to do it, man. I had to do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, bro. Um, as black men and as black male identifying individuals, like we tend to look at our fathers as our greatest influence, our biggest heroes. Um, just touch more in depth as to why, you know, your father represented that for you.
Jamal. Um, just an excellent man. Um, Athlete, musician, youth worker. Um, Worked in the streets, worked in the community with the kids out there thugging, trying to keep them out the streets. Um, Everything I tried to be. He taught me how to be an independent musician. Like he wrote, recorded, mixed and mastered all of his music. You know what I'm saying, in his house. He did what's called the poor man's copyrights to make sure, you know what I'm saying, this stuff was legally taken care of. Um, you know, he pressed up his own CDs and his own tapes, and he would tell me. So if we had tapes, you know what I'm saying, you know, we sell the tapes for $5. You know what I'm saying? And we'll sell the CDs for 7, I want to say. If we was out of town, we'd bump the tapes up to 7 and the CDs for 10. And I would basically get like 75% off each sale to give me an incentive to really sell them. So after his shows or whatever, after his performances, or
Hmm.
be it a, you know, you're a church kid just like me. So my dad called them programs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So after the program, be it at a high school auditorium or a gym or a church or whatever, a community center, you know what I'm saying? Um, I'm setting up the table with his tapes and his CDs. And like, so to give me an incentive to like sell them, he would just give me like a high percentage on each, you know what I'm saying, or whatever sale or what have you. Um, there was a local Bible store that was in the mall. It was a couple different like Christian bookstores and Bible bookstores and places that sold like local artist music. And like he would give me the briefcase with all the CDs and all the tapes in it to go like, you know, sell them on consignment. So I'm 11, 12 years old going into Living Word Bible store, a Christian bookstore with, you know what I'm saying, a briefcase of like 30 or 40 tapes, and I'm coming out with cash. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he like I saw him create the art, sit at the end of his bed and like write the lyrics down, and I see him strum on his guitar, and then I see him go downtown to our garage that was converted to a den and bang out a whole album. You know what I'm saying? And then I would see him go perform these songs in front of people and the people catch the Holy Ghost. You know what I'm saying? He would, you know, schedule his own programs, and you know what I'm saying, and around Texas and Kansas and Oklahoma and, you know what I'm saying, Missouri, things of that nature. Um, and it was he marched in the band, he played instruments. You know, I marched in the band. You know what I'm saying? I played trombone. He played basketball. You know, I you know, he was real skinny. I was big, so my basketball career, I was a fat boy. So that's one thing I didn't get from him. You know what I'm saying? Was me being a fat kid. I
Hmm.
was tall, you know what I'm saying, but my pops was like 6'6". You know what I'm saying? He played just a little bit of college basketball. So he's everything I ever wanted to be. Um, as a father, like just man, like just, you know, as a person who uh worked in the community, like my daddy had all the neighborhood Crips on his caseload. You know what I'm saying? And they showed him mad love and respect because he worked, even though he worked for the state, he was the one trying to get you out of trouble. So like they would be happy when they got my pops because
Yeah.
he's not trying to put you in that place. You know what I'm saying? He talking to you. I always tell the story. I remember like being like maybe 9 or 10 years old, and like he's probably my age that I am now, but I'm like 9 or 10 years old, and we at the fair. You know, the fair's on the east side. You know, it's on the hood on the the side that's called the hood or whatever. And we
Mhm.
getting like corn dogs or something. And like I look over, man, I see this whole group. You know, they crippin'. You know what I'm saying? Blue rags, tatted up, whatever, whatever. Back then, like a lot of used to wear like Raider stuff or cowboy stuff or what have you.
Mhm.
And we getting corn dogs where I look back and like they coming towards them. I'm like, oh man, we about to get robbed. We about to, you know what I'm saying? I'm scared. Like these are visible gang members, right? And they
Mhm.
come, he dapped every single one of them down. I remember him dapping one dude down, and he had NHC tattooed on his hand. You know what I'm saying? But like these were dudes who was active gang members, but they showed him nothing but love and respect because at one point in time when they was younger, they was on his caseload when he was a juvenile probation officer, and he tried his hardest to not get them put in detention. Or if he had to put them in a group home, he made sure he visited them and make sure they were straight. You know what I'm saying? He always
Yeah.
told them the right thing to do or whatever. And so it's just like that's who I am. And I tried to run from it. When you're younger,
Yeah.
you try to run from it. It's like, man, this dude too good. I can't be like him. You know what I'm saying? But so like all that's in my DNA, and it just meant everything to me.
And so it just shows how you're a great reflection of what it is that he was
Trying,
within
trying,
his
trying my hardest to
era.
be.
Yeah, man. Um, in addition to the passing of your personal superhero, affecting your mental health, you said COVID, Black lives being taken at the hands of police, and state sanctioned violence on blacks was also mentioned in the song as
Well,
things that affected your mental health. Um, how do you feel 2020 as a whole? How much do you feel 2020 as a whole did to black people's mental health?
bruh, man, let me tell you something. When I first tried to get a therapist, I was on so many waiting lists. Like it was. I know so many couples that divorced. You know what I'm saying? I was a mental health counselor for 3.5 years. You know, I wasn't in the industry anymore. But man, if you was in that industry, unfortunately, I mean, due to the circumstances, people had a whole lot more clientele, and they were telling me how like just people with dealing with mental health issues seeking therapy, they can't go to school, they can't work there at the house. Now you got all these kids, you know what I'm saying, at home. Like, man, therapists is working hard in 2020. Like I said,
Yeah.
so it did. You got a whole revolution going on.
Mhm.
It's a pandemic. We can't go to school. We can't work. We can't. So many industries shut down, and police is going crazy. You know what I'm saying? Killing niggas in the street. You feel me? Cops killing. When I say COVID killed momentum, cops killing in the street, coping during quarantine harder than you think. It's just like, man, it's like I'm trying to like I lost so much in 2020, and it's just me. That's just me and my particular family, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what killed my pops, but I guarantee it'd been a whole lot worse. It was a police officer. You know what I'm saying? So, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? If it was
Yeah.
something like that. So it's just like it was just hard last year, man.
Yeah, man.
it's like we couldn't we couldn't catch a W for nothing.
Yeah,
Like we
man.
were just
We in
taking
the
L's. We were taking L's left and right, man. So a lot of people, man, a lot of self medicating going on, a lot of domestic violence going on, a lot of divorces going on, a lot of kids who can't cope being at home all the time. So as soon as it came up, they came outside and the streets was going crazy. Like the uptick of crime that's happening right now, that ain't because people are saying defund the police. It's because niggas been inside for a year and a half and they tired and they want to be
Mhm.
outside.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're poor, we're broke. You know what I'm saying? I ain't no money. Yeah, we robbing. Like, man, in New Orleans, carjacking is like New Jersey in the 90s, bro. You know what I'm saying? You can't stop it, no stop. They tell the women to pack guns at the gas pump.
All the time,
And
literally. It's the same way in Atlanta.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, it's just, just all this stuff going on, bro. And like, it was just a lot, bro. And it's like 2020 was 100% like the worst year of my life, considering especially coming off of how 2019 was the best year of my life.
Yeah.
Like I was up, I'm going, Everything I worked for, you know what I'm saying? I had got to that point in 2020, just totally just took everything out. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. Shout out to my therapist, man. I gotta find me another one in Oklahoma. Shout out to Dr. Sharon Russell. You know what I'm saying? Sunflower counseling. If you in Louisiana, and she can practice in Texas too. If you in Texas or Louisiana, you want to do it virtual or in person or what have you, I strongly suggest her, man, because without of course, I definitely had love for my wife, who was very supportive, who actually got me linked up with Dr. Russell or what have you. But man, having her, them counseling sessions every other week was lifesavers. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's important, bro.
I think we were in we were in 2020 dealing with COVID, and then my family turned around and we had to deal with my cousin being murdered by the father of her child, father of her
Mm,
children. And like, matter of fact, that 1 year anniversary coming up, like that's September the 11th. So
that's my
we
birthday.
yeah. Oh
Wow,
man, yeah.
that's
So
my yeah.
and so we like we was dealing with that, like, man, like watching all these people at the funeral, everybody masked up at the funeral. So it's a reflection of the the pandemic that we going through, and then the personal pandemic that we all going through, looking at this body in the casket. So yeah, man, like that was a needed question for me in regards to, like, how did you feel it dealt with Black people's mental health? So what do you feel the steps that we need to take in order to heal?
Therapy, therapy. Find you somebody. If you got insurance, go to your insurance, get somebody. I know my therapist. I didn't have insurance at the time, so my therapist was a G. You know what I'm saying? We had like a little cash situation set up. It just took me. I wasn't going to the polo store during the pandemic no way. So the money I was the money I would spend week, every other week on my, whatever from buy a polo, I just, I used to spend it on my mental health or whatever. Um,
Yeah,
but the biggest thing I learned from the situation, man, outside of therapy, getting therapy, is love hard, love unconditional. Every person that you love needs to know it. They need to know how much you love them by the things that you say, the way the way that you feel, the things that you do. Look, bro, I looked at so much stuff like differently because you never know what somebody's going through,
yeah,
and so I never want to add any bullshit to somebody's day.
I feel you. Like,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So just love hard, man. Like and another thing too. Um, and so it's like I've had a lot of people who lost family members from COVID or just lost people during this time, what have you. And one thing I was telling people, like, look, I'm not making any judgment. One of the best things, the one positive thing that came out of this, I'm never gonna call it positive. So I had stopped drinking in March of 2019.
hmm
If I was still drinking during last year, I'd be bad off. Like, I would be bad off. I would be bad off, right? And so, me being sober, sobriety, and not looking to self medicate, that was a way that, because if I would have been drinking, I've never been a smoker. I've never smoked weed a day in my life, but I used to get it in. I used to pull back or whatever. That Hennessy and Red Bull was my thing. Part of the reason my ass was diabetic now. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? But like yeah, but yeah, so just as far as like coping with everything, I would strongly suggest, hey man, like don't look to drink, don't look to like self-medicated with drugs or alcohol. Like really go through the process. Um once it opened back up, me getting back into the gym was really big. You know what I'm saying? As far as like a stress release. And it's funny, it's like as soon as I started working out and getting active, that's when my brain started working again. I was able to write more and like
yeah,
really articulate more. You know what I'm saying? Um, um, just find the stuff that you like and you love to do. You know what I'm saying? So for me, um, through you know what I'm saying, just as a just to I had all this anger and all this energy built up. You know, what I'm saying I released 3 projects and 22 pieces of merchandise and I don't know how many podcast episodes. You know what I'm saying? So I just put that extra time when I was instead of just sitting back and being depressed, I
Yeah.
try to use that side of the situation, you know what I'm saying, to just be productive and things of that nature, whatever. But I never like because I was a mental health counselor, I understood the power of dealing with your emotions and your mental health. So I didn't run from it. Right. Now I definitely struggled with it. It was days I didn't feel like getting up out of bed. It was days that what I'm saying, I didn't sleep. It got so bad at one point I couldn't sleep at night. I would have to take um two uh two melatonin gummies and
Mm,
two Tylenol PMs.
man.
It was that's how
Yeah.
and then and so I was sleeping, I was sleep good, but it was hell waking up. I wake up and I'm just like, my eyes are awake, but my body is still asleep. You know what I'm saying? So I just had, all right, I gotta find something else. You know what I'm saying? Because this ain't it. Because school is going on. I still gotta work in virtual teaching. I gotta get up to get my babies to make sure they whatever. You know what I'm saying? They own their things before we was able to go back into the schoolhouse or whatever. But just finding positive ways to cope and work through the process. It took me a little while to figure it out, but I'm glad I didn't give in to like what I'm saying my lower self in terms of like stuff that could be destructive.
Absolutely. Um, is there anything else that you want for people to really get from this song?
Try to think. Kansas took I normally rap with a chip up on my shoulder, but now my heart's heavy, empty as it holds. Number heart, yeah. I wishes on no one, no matter if it's sergeant, so no time for rapper. So like I guess it put what I say no time for rap versus other persons. My verses match is life first verse mortality.
Hmm.
Because battle raps are cool, but morality is something that I want to leave for my kids after me. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's just like all the other stuff is petty. When you can just would not wake up the next day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I love hip hop, I love a good battle rap and this, that, and the third or whatever. But like, man, like I said, like when your superhero don't wake up or he closes his eyes for the last time, you're like, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa, like this can happen to me too. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, um, it just really it's a somber song, it's a somber way to start off the album, but it's something so real, and I had to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It did just from a sonic standpoint, man, just like um, and we'll talk about this more as the podcast evolves, but like I'm a super duper 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 huge stan of Justice League. My all-time favorite rapper is Fonte Coleman. My favorite group is Little Brother. My favorite album is The Listen. You know what I'm saying? I love Foreign Exchange. I love Cesar Comanche. I love Median, Ninth Wonder. Anything that's Justice League affiliated, I'm all in on it.
Mm.
And this whole album, man, it's artistic. Like it's of course I have my content, but like from a sound and a feel, man, like this is um the most vulnerable I've ever been. Like a lot of people know Marcel P. Black, he don't like rapping over vocals. He says fuck Donald Trump and he wears polo and he's a Pan African, right? But a lot of people don't know Brian Marcel Williams. And so one of the reasons why I'm such a big Fonte fan is that even though Fonte is not quote unquote a conscious rapper, he's not really political. His music is black as hell.
Yeah.
And it really articulates what it is to be a black Southern man who's a father, who's a husband, who's a son. And so I really try to tap into that. And so, just from an artistic standpoint, on the album, I'm doing a whole lot more singing. You know what I'm saying? Like this album isn't as aggressive as people know me to be because I'm being very vulnerable. So I'm doing the
Yeah.
da 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 da's. You know what I'm saying? Just doing something different. Just adding some flavor to it. You know what I mean? Just because content wise it's heavy, I didn't want to be super duper duper heavy and then punch you in your face with a whole bunch of yelling too, like I normally do. You know what I'm saying? Like this ain't. I got some aggressive songs on the record, but overall, this ain't to punch you in the face, Marcel. This is Brian trying to figure out how to grieve during the pandemic. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah, big shout out to Jay Philly on the track. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, just a great way to start the album off for me, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. And sonically, the track is amazing. It has like a real the track for me. It has like a real late registration feel to it,
Mm,
and
mm.
so yeah, I really dug it because it just the beat wise is a lot different from anything that I've heard you over.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, man, this is an awesome way to start the album, and I appreciate you allowing me, like an inside look on some of the tracks for this album, and just appreciate you having me on today to chop it up with you, bro. Like this been really great for me.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Anytime, man. You know you're gonna be back. You know what I'm saying with the other episode too. But yeah, man. It's like I said. I like. It's always good to see the good brothers face to face. We can't be in the physical, so I really appreciate you doing this. But for the people out there, man, the album drops Tuesday, September 14th on marcelpblack.bandcamp.com. If you don't follow me at Marcel P Black on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook MarcelPBlack, marcelpblack.com. Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of these. Y'all look, go ahead. Y'all already know I be posting a lot, but like it's gonna be a lot of content. I hate to say content because this isn't product. This isn't a commodity. This is art and culture. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna be seeing a whole bunch of art and culture from me very, very soon or whatever. The album is coming buku buku soon. So yeah.
Yeah.
Jamaal, I appreciate you, good brother. And boom. Um, we'll get back on here soon.
All right, man. I
Peace.
appreciate you as well.
All righty.